Good afternoon, dear friends. Today, with the usual help of Carlos Fernandez, who is the film director, I will speak to you about a very difficult topic. Why is it difficult, in my opinion? It's something I think about frequently. Because no one wants to face it, wants to really consider it. And my intention is to tell you what high spiritual masters have said about it throughout, in more recent years, ITC and other. In this case, I chose the famous Father François Brune, who is the author of The Dead Speak With Us or To Us. It's not translated into English, but it's translated in some 25 languages. Anyway, suffering, going back to our topic, is something nobody wants to speak of. People normally say, oh yes, I don't mind dying, for example, but I don't want to suffer. So I say the opposite, not I, Anabela. Who am I to say whatever in that regard? I'm not a spiritual master. I'm just an emissary of other masters. Not only Rio do Tempo, but other masters. And what the masters, the spiritual masters, tell us about suffering is that suffering is an indispensable element of life. They also tell us that without suffering, there is no evolution. And this, to me, who am a person who is constantly thinking, I like to think, makes much sense, because if suffering were not important in this life here, in this planet, of course it would not exist, but it exists, and it exists for every living being. It's about time that we say that suffering is the same for humans, for non-human animals, for plants, and to which point, for minerals also, which are also living beings, not biological, but living. And they tell us all of that. Here I'm quoting from Hildegard Schäfer's book, which is an excellent book. She compiles the teachings received by the Harsch-Fischbach in Luxembourg, by Hans-Otto König, and by in Darmstadt, ABX Juno, all of them. This is an excellent book. I have it in French, but I don't think you can find it in English. Of course, you can find it in German, but not in English. Yes or not, Carlos? Is this book available in English, Carlos? He says no. Carlos says no. You can't find it in English. What a pity. Also, you can't find François Brune's very good books in English. And neither can you find Ernst Zenkovsky, because Ernst Zenkovsky says all that Hildegard Schäfer says. She's just really translating from in this case, the German in Luxembourg, and Hans-Otto König in this case, to French. And Ernst Zenkovsky is in the original in German. But they say this, that without suffering, there is no spiritual progression. They also say that suffering, and there is no difference, no matter which suffering, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, is a very important element for progression for all living beings. And according to these masters who spoke in Luxembourg, in Darmstadt, even at Monique Simonet in France, her little grandson who died of a brain tumor. Monique Simonet, as you know, was a great French transcommunicator. Alex or Axel, something like this, said, don't ever think that my suffering, he was just 11 years old, and he had his horrible brain tumor, was in vain. No, it was very important for me, he says, in a recording. I tend to like recordings more than automatic writing, as is the case, because that's what I know is the objective messages. But he said, Monique Simonet's grandson, don't think that my suffering was in vain. It was important for me. It was important for you, for his grandmother Monique, and for his own mother. It was important for all of us. Because exactly for the reason that I said. And they also say, these spiritual masters, that in the case of animals, let's put non-human animals first. They say that suffering, as I'm sure many of you know very well, that many non-human animals suffer the same or more than human animals. And they say it's important for them because that will prevent future incarnations in this planet. I know, of course I know very well that I am speaking for some very strange language, but if you try to get deeper into the subject, you will find out that it makes all the sense in the world. They say that non-human animals, suffering for them will prevent them from future incarnations in this planet. They also call this planet a land of expiation. I do not remember if it's in this book by Edgar Schaeffer, or if it is in François Brune's automatic writing communications of very high level, very trustworthy. I spoke with my dear friend François Brune many times about these people. I even met in Paris Catherine Tétanger, still from the family of these two communicators, by automatic writing in the same family. It started in something like 1939, and it goes until 70 or something like that, or beginning of the 80s, something. And it's always the same thing. To progress in the scale of evolution, already free of this body, the physical body, you need to go through suffering. You, the cat, the dog, the little bird, the little earthworm, the plants suffer. You should investigate this, because I will put it in the references. Particularly the most recent investigations by Professor Stefano Mancuso about intelligence and sensitivity of the plants, of the vegetable kingdom, as he calls it. Thinking that the plants don't suffer is very stupid, to say the right word. All beings in this planet are basically the same, and then they have different shapes. But as Adolf Homes many times reiterated, the basis is always the same, and they all suffer, they all have to obey the natural law. And the natural law implies suffering. Why? If it exists, it is because it is necessary. I get very upset when I hear people saying, life is to enjoy oneself. No, it is not to enjoy oneself. Life is to be lived as it comes. It's to be experienced. Experienced is a better word. Not to be happy. Of course, if you can be happy, you'll be happy. It's very difficult, though, to be happy, because happiness is not a permanent state. It's an ever-moving state. Sometimes you are, sometimes you are not. Often you are not. But certainly the purpose of life is not to be happy, because that's an impossible purpose. Life is to be experienced with everything that it comprises. Some little happiness, suffering, pain, physical, emotional, mental pain, mourning when some of our beloved ones. I can tell you, because there is nobody in the world that I love more than my dogs and my little cats. I love non-human animals more than I love humans. I've told this and written about it in this book of mine, must be somewhere here. I tell so many stories related to suffering of non-human animals, which disturbs me more than the human suffering. Why? Because they are pure beings, innocent beings, free of guilt, but they are not free of karma, because the communicators, have said themselves, they also have to go to suffer, I would say, perhaps this is not the right word, the law of karma. I do not know if I already put it for you to listen universally, but I've spoken about it in my writings. A terrible case of suffering I witnessed here in my house and my garden of a little cat. I will not describe why, but it was horrible. And it went on for more than 1 year, and until finally we had to euthanize him in a rather brutal way, but there was no other way at that time of the night. And he had been through so much suffering. And I was very disturbed by this. And one day, one night, one evening, when I was recording here in my studio, I asked my communicators, why? Why did this have to be like that for the little cat? A cat which was not my own cat. He was a stray cat. But by chance, he appeared one day under my bed, just imagine. Anyway, and a beautiful angelical voice said in reply to my question, and I was very disturbed because I get terribly affected by animal suffering, as I said. His beautiful voice said, "É a lei do karma. It's the law of karma." One evening when I was speaking with the communicators and complaining about the suffering the little cat went through, I can't even understand what I said. I made a pause, and this voice appeared. It's an EVP voice that says, It's the law of karma. É a lei do karma.
Sai resultado. Sai resultado.
So what does this mean? That there was some karma that the little cat had to pay for. And he did, and he did. It also means, according to them, to the communicators, no matter who they are, they all say the same thing, that he will be free from future incarnations. And that's very good. In what concerns my own little cats, my own dogs, that I love above everything else, I am very happy. They went through a lot of suffering, it's true, but they will be free from returning to this planet, which is a land of expiation, as the communicators said. There is one very interesting affirmation, which is in one of the pages here, which happened in a congress in Büdingen to Hans-Otto König, who left us a short time ago. And this voice said, you must realize that, or you must understand something like this, that the behavior, human behavior toward animals as karmic consequences. So perhaps I will leave you with this, and with also what the deceased Constantin Raudive told in a telephone conversation to Madame Aline Piget, is published in ITC Journal number 2, is said, my dear Aline, it was in French, of course, he spoke in French, you have to realize that the purpose of a life on earth is not only the goodness, the purpose, it's the expansion of consciousness. So I think this is what I wanted to tell you today, so that some of you at least, I'm sure, will reconsider the meaning of suffering. And as they said, the necessity of suffering. Life is not to be happy. Life is to be what it will bring us. That's what they say, and that's what I share. The references will be in the description, in the memory of the video, all the references that I have quoted. Thank you very much, and carry on with your deep thinking about the truths of life. There are many lives, and there are many worlds. Thank you.